Good evening. Hello, hello. What's going on, everybody? Let's make sure all the audio is right. I'm not talking to myself and no one can hear me. Okay, we good. We good. Sorry for the lateness, but I am here. I am here. So we had to get in. I ain't gonna take up too much time. I know we got Monday Night Football in about an hour or so, so we'll probably get about an hour in. Let's get into it. Let's just get on right on into it. Hope everybody's doing good this evening. So, you guys saw the thumbnail. We have to talk about, and we talked about it actually a couple days ago. With was the Chiefs kingdom falling apart, and unfortunately, Patrick Mahomes suffered a ACL injury. It was confirmed. Well, it was confirmed Sunday, but it was actually really confirmed the day after the MRI. They said it was a pretty rough injury, um, and he's going to be out probably a full year. They're looking at a full year on this injury. So, um, where do the Chiefs go from here? We got Chris Jones. Now, this was pretty funny. I got to bring this up. I'm pull this up here because he thought he still had a fighting chance to be in the playoffs, and yeah, that wasn't the case. Let's check it out real quick. Let's see this here. Let's see this. Add this to the screen. Wow, look at this. I'm getting better with this whole thing. Here we go. So let's pull this up real quick. It's pretty fast. Let's
Still have fighting chance. So, still have fighting chance. Um, are we out of the playoffs? We are. Okay.
Oh man. You said we still had a fighting chance. No, man, it's over. It's over. You know, 3-2-1 Cancun, man. The Chiefs, like I said in the show the other day, it's a wrap on the Chiefs for a while. I think they're in a situation where they're in a rebuild situation. They've been in championship mode for the last 5-6 years. Even this year, they were literally still in the race and just so happened to get knocked out where every team that they needed, they needed like three teams in 1 week to put them out. So they were still literally up in the race until the end, as bad as they played. They have not played good football. I've said it before. The weapons have been lackluster. For Patrick Mahomes, he's had to be a superhero, and it was just impossible. It is what it is. It's just impossible. You couldn't do that forever. Like I said, this was like watching Donovan McNabb 003 reincarnated what Patrick Mahomes was doing, and the common denominator is Andy Reid was the head coach. And that really was the difference. We just saw the 2025 version of that. And if you guys have been watching Chiefs games and been watching Patrick Mahomes will and deal this year, he's had to play Superman every week, and we've seen him get up and he's limping, and it's an ankle one minute, and then the knee is kind of sore the next minute. And I'll be honest, when he went down, because I hadn't really saw it in slow motion, how the ankle had kind of like buckled backwards. I'm like, oh, he just kind of hyperextended. You know, not saying he ain't in pain, but he putting on a little theatrics. He gonna pop up. And keep going. And that wasn't the case. Then when I saw him get up and was trying to walk on the sideline, he was trying to muscle it out. I'm like, okay, he gonna probably shake it off. Then I saw the replay and watched that leg rubber band back the way it did. I said, oh man, this is bad. And then when they showed what was that game on? Was it CBS? That game was on CBS, and they showed that camera going to the back, going into the training room, and he was getting helped off. Like I said, he tried to man up and walk it off, but when them cameras was off of him, they had to help him to the back. So he took he's been taking a beating all year, and it caught up to him. And the Chiefs now they're in a situation where it's like, hey, let some of these young guys you got play. In my opinion, if you got some young guys, kind of see what you got for going forward, because you're going to be without him all the way until what, December of next year. 9 times out of 10, unless they get some type of quarterback that's willing to come in and rescue the Chiefs until he's ready to come back, they're probably going to miss the playoffs for 2 straight years. So now you're in a real rebuild mode. And at this point now, you go ahead and pack Travis Kelce up and send him on home. I was talking about him and how he's been the last couple months, and it's all good when you winning. You win some games. You want to do the press conferences then. You're all good with, showing up on all the shows and being all in the cameras, all in the videos, doing all that stuff. But when you lose, you ain't nowhere to be found. And I think that's not a good look. You know what I mean? Like, you was there when you was winning, and you was winning those Super Bowls, and y'all was, running the league. You was available for every press conference. Now that you're losing, and Father Time is catching up with you, now you unavailable. That ain't a good look. I'm just gonna be honest. He's supposed to be a leader of the team. He's one of the elder statesmen on the team, and you lead by example. We don't want to hear you talk and you go on new heights or whatever it's called a couple months ago, and you say I got to be better. I can't do that, and you keep doing the same thing when it don't go your way. It's just not a good look. And I'm just gonna be honest about that. It's not a good look. But they are in a situation where, like I said, they should have drafted some weapons. They definitely should have drafted an extra tight end at the tight end position. There was a whole bunch of them available, and they just didn't do it. And like I said, now Brett Beach, who to me has done a great job retooling this Kansas City team, I just think he got long in the tooth at this point. It's just something you just can't keep up with. And when your linchpin is your big time quarterback, and he can't do it anymore, the pieces around him were just not all that great. They just weren't that great. Like I said, Travis Kelce is a shell of himself. At this point now, he's a chip and release tight end. He can hit you with a couple moves here and there, but he's not going to get open. I mean, on that fourth down, even the way he ran that route, You would think because at this point now, Travis Kelsey he's not the physical freak that he was. He would just box out Derwin James. Now, not saying that Derwin James still wouldn't have knocked that ball down, but at that point, you're the bigger tight end. You lumbering down the field. You got to box out Derwin James in that situation. At least give yourself a better chance of catching that ball. Derwin James just jumped in front of him like it wasn't nothing. I mean, he had Travis Kelsey boxed out. The way he ran that route, Travis Kelsey should have ran that route underneath Derwin James where he could have boxed him out and gave himself a better chance to catch that ball. So, you know, I can understand being frustrated, but it's a lot of things that Travis Kelsey has not done. He has not adapted to his skill set needing to change, I think, in certain ways. And I just think that was the thing. And they're in a situation now where now you lose Pat at the end of the year and you're going to go into next year. So if I'm the Chiefs at this point, you got to look at the situation and say, you're not going to get a veteran. I mean, you got Gardner Minshew, and he won some games in this league. I'm guessing they'll bring him back next year, but he's not going to make you a playoff caliber team. And then the weapons around him aren't going to elevate him like Patrick Mahomes elevated the weapons. That's not going to happen. So Kansas City in full rebuild mode. They picked up, you could tell the way they did it was like they got the band back together because, the salary cap is what it is. And, they pay a lot of people at this point in time, a lot of money. And, they brought back the Derek 90s and the other guy that was in Cincinnati and all those things. And you try to bring them guys in because they knew the systems. And to the credit, the defense has played decent. Defense has been pretty decent. But when that offense can't get cooking, that defense is going to start leaking at some point. And it's going to give up some of those, those drives that you can't give up. And, they out of there. That's just what it is. Let me know what you guys think. You think Kansas City can, I don't know, steady the ship for next year? Because this year is pretty much over. I mean, no playoffs. Anybody that's a Kansas City Chiefs fan, what do you see? Do you think they go into the draft and draft a quarterback this year? I know it sounds crazy, but you know, Patrick is still in his prime, but he's still 30. He can still play a long time. But just having this type of situation, do you start to groom, your next young QB? Not saying you got to go pick him up in the first or second round, but maybe you start thinking about an extra QB in the third round because, this team is supposed to have championship aspirations every year. And, it's going to be hard to get somebody to come behind Pat and steady the ship. You know what I mean? So they definitely in an interesting situation. I definitely think that they, look for a project QB at some point here. But we'll see what happens with Kansas City because this is definitely a blow. And everything has went right for the Kansas City Chiefs the last 6 years, 7 years. Everything. And this is like a monkey wrench into the game. So, uh, we'll see how they finish up these last few games of the year. And I would like to see their draft board for 2026. I'm really interested in that. Really interested in see how they handle that. We got to get into another topic. We got to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow. And This was the one I was teasing Sunday morning when I did the show about. Really want to talk about the Joe Burrow situation. It seemed like we talked about all quarterbacks here, but Joe Burrow is showing his frustration. Um, he's, I'm guessing at this point, not happy with the organization. He had a terrible game yesterday against the Baltimore Ravens. He threw 2 picks. I want to say he threw another pick six. And, the dude we call Joe Burr, Joe Cool 2.0, he ain't cool right now. He actually a little hot. And we got to hear from Jamar Chase because he has some interesting comments. So we go check that out real quick. So let's, let's check that out real quick here. Oh man, 2 times in a row, I'm getting this right. I'm getting this right. So let's check Jamar Chase.
3 straight seasons missing the playoffs. What kind of changes would you like to see in this offseason?
Um, if I had to say so, it'd probably be something, but I don't know what I could do. So all I could do is control what I could control. I've been knowing Joe for a long time, man. At the end of the day, I know what he's capable of. I know when he's off. I know when he's on. Um, but I gotta find a way to help him. You know what I'm saying? If he's off or on, it don't matter. I gotta be there for him, encourage him. You know what I'm saying? Just do whatever I can for him. He just really love the game, man. He just want to be great at the end of the day, and I can respect that from him. But like he told me, don't kill. I ain't gonna let him kill himself mentally by just one game he played bad in.
How hard is it to accept the fact that you're officially?
It's a hard pill to swallow, but I mean, at the end of the day, is what we gotta live with. It's just about finishing strong at this point, man. Yeah, everybody got to come in and work. We all coming in the same thing, doing the same stuff every day. Everybody time is being put in around the same thing. So we got to come in and just keep pushing and just finish strong. That's all I think we can do at the end of the day.
3 years.
It's either the offense is clicking or the defense is clicking one of the days. We have never yet to put our offense and defense together as one unit and play together. Yeah, I mean, we had great plays today. That was opportunities for us to score and kill them deep. But, sometimes we just didn't connect, and so be it. I'm not sure what their plan was today, but I'm sure it was not for us to score, so.
Ooh wee. We heard Jamar Chase there, and you could tell he's at a loss for words at this point. He's known Joe Burrow since LSU. He's never seen him like this. The frustration's real in Cincinnati. And I'm going to impart some thoughts on what I think uh, is going on in that situation. Uh, the Cincinnati Bengals is an organization that's not known for spending a lot of money. We can all say that. They're a very frugal team, right? This is the same team that was selling flat screen TVs in the stadium. So they're a frugal bunch, and they spent a lot of money. Joe Burrow's probably one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league. Jamar Chase is the highest paid wide receiver in the league. T. Higgins is paid like a top 10 wide receiver. So you've paid that trio a lot of money. They paid that trio a lot of money. And Joe Burrow was in front of it, said, hey, you got to pay my guys and get them their money so we can be formidable. The only problem with that is you pay so much money on the top end. You're top heavy, and you're basically telling your GM and ownership, like, okay, now we got the offense, the defense. We just go draft all the guys. On that end, we got to be really, really good in the draft, and if we draft these guys. We let Lou Almirono go to the Indianapolis Colts because we felt like he wasn't going to do a good job In comes Al Golden from Notre Dame. This is going to fix the situation. That did not fix the situation at all. Bengals defense has been one of the worst defenses in the league. Uh, really, for what? The last 2 years, to be honest? The defense went good. And then you had all the issues with Trey Hendrickson wanting to get paid, and he didn't really get paid. He kind of just settled on the franchise tag. He hasn't been healthy. And, they lost a lot of guys. They lost Pratt. They lost what is the other linebacker? They had sat him. Logan Wilson. I think he ended up being traded somewhere else or released. And that defense just not a really good defense. You know what I mean? And if that offense isn't kicking, like that offense can't afford to have a bad game. And when you pay those guys, they got to produce. And they got beat up in Baltimore. And I think Joe Burrow's just at this point now, he's frustrated because when he is playing well, he somehow gets some type of injury that limits him for a certain amount of games. So this organization cannot get on the same page. And Jamar Chase showed you that. When the defense played well, the offense isn't playing well. Offense scoring 35 points, they give up 40. They're in a situation this offseason where they're going to have to figure out and think about actually moving off of one of them, in my opinion. Because they had to figure out where they sit at as a team. They got the GM Duke Tobin over there, and he got a hard job in front of him. Now, what they may end up looking at is getting rid of Zach Taylor, because they're going to probably say, hey, this is the cheapest move possible. He can't coach these guys up. And I don't know what this is. He can't coach these guys up. And, what else is it? Zach Taylor has been he's been on a hot seat for the last few years now. And he's kept his job. But at this point now, where you paying all these guys, you drafted Shamar Stewart, who really has not done much. Trey Hendrickson probably not going to be there next year. At this point now, you're going to have to figure out how to reload on the cheap. And the only thing I can think of at this point, if I'm the GM or the owner of the Bengals, you're going to have to try to bring in a defensive-minded head coach that can go with Al Golden, and they can piece together some type of defense that can just slow down teams. Because you do have the offensive weapons, but they can't be on every week. That's just impossible. They can't be on every week. So I think at this point now, Joe Burrow's starting to get frustrated. But he's a part of it. And, when they win it, he's the man. When they losing, you got to take it on the chin too. And he does, for the most part. He really does. So I think they're in a situation now where they're going to either have to trade a T. Higgins, or they're going to have to think about Chase or one of these guys just to flip draft picks back, because those contracts are going to start ballooning, and they're not going to be able to pay everybody. So, being that they've been in a situation where they have not made the playoffs in 3 years, and you're spending that type of money, you still having to re-up your quarterback, you still having to re-up your receivers, that's a tough situation for the Bengals. And there's not a real definitive answer to what they should do. Are they going to have to bring in guys on the cheap? veterans on the cheap. They may still have a little juice in their legs just to fill some position, just to kind of get this team up to snuff to be able to play. But, you know, they definitely in a situation they want Zach Taylor fired. Uh, Let me go look here. I think I had a list that somebody made that I thought was pretty interesting. Let me see if I got it here. I do have it right here. Let's check this out. So let me let's share the screen again. All right, so we got the next coach. If the Bengals fire Zach Taylor, somebody took a lot of time to put this together. Shout out to Chatterbox Sports. So we got Jeff Hadley, who's over there in Green Bay. He's done a good job with Green Bay over there. And, you know, Vance Joseph, another defensive coordinator. We seeing the trend here. Jeff Hadley, Vance Joseph, Brian Flores, who could work with much of nothing on the defense. Lou Amaruno, how convenient to bring him back. To bring him back after he was fired to being the defensive coordinator to be the head coach, I don't know about that one. I don't even think the ownership would their ego would let them bring back Lou. Matt Burke, defensive coordinator. Texas is having one of the best years defensive wise. They're shutting everybody down. You got Jesse Minter, who was looked at as a candidate for the Michigan Wolverines job. Now, more likely that ain't gonna happen because he's gonna get NFL looks. Joe Brady. Now, the interesting thing about Joe Brady was with Joe Burrow at LSU. So he knows Joe Burrow. So that's an interesting situation. Mike McCarthy is another interesting situation. John Gruden and the wild card, Ryan Day. Now, this is interesting. This is an interesting list because there's no real, like, hot, can't miss candidate. But I think if I was the owner of the Cincinnati Bengals at this point now, I think you do have to bring in a defensive coach. And if I can get my hands on a Brian Flores, maybe a Vance Joseph, Jesse Minter, or Jeff Hadley, I think they do need a defensive coach. I think Joe Burrow and them can handle the offense. Bring a decent offensive coordinator in that can do what Joe likes and add a couple wrinkles to the game. That'd be cool. But I definitely think they need a defensive minded coach because you put all the money on the offense already. You know, if you can find one of these defensive wizards that can come in and put some smoke and mirrors in on that defense as they draft good talent and that can evaluate uh, these defensive athletes coming out of college, that's what I would do. So that's definitely an interesting situation for them. So you gotta let me know what you guys think about that situation. Let me see here. Speaking of Jeff Hadley, we got a transition into the Green Bay Packers, and this was a huge blow for the Green Bay Packers. They lost Micah Parsons to an ACL injury, and that's tough because Micah Parsons has had a great year with the Green Bay Packers. Jeff Hadley had been moving him all over the formations. He was blitzing from all different angles. He was a defensive player of the year type of candidate. I don't know if he was eligible because I don't think he came in the. I don't know if he had played enough games to be a candidate at that point, but he had been wreaking havoc. You know, was turning into a Swiss Army knife. He's dropping in the coverage. He's doing a lot of blitzing from different angles, and that is just such a big blow to the Green Bay Packers because they got Super Bowl dreams, and that one piece that they were missing was that pass rusher, and they went all in and gave up a nice haul for Micah Parsons. Now, the one part I was worried about with Micah Parsons was the whole back thing, and I guess he had figured out the whole back issue and was playing well. All the treatments and things like that was working. So for him to tear his ACL, and he tore it at the end of the season. We only got 3 games left to tear that ACL going into the playoffs, and he was such a weapon for what the Packers was doing. It's just an unfortunate move, and now they got to get creative on defense because he was really the pass rusher, and you got the Rashawn Gary, he's not a real pass rusher. He can get to the quarterback, but of course, that puts a little more on him. I think has Lucas Van Ness been playing this year? Let's see here. Yeah, he's been okay this year, but he hasn't really done much. You know, he hasn't really turned out to be what everybody thought he was going to be. So they're going to have to get very creative in their pass rush schemes at this point. And this is just an unfortunate time to lose their guy. You know what I mean? That was just a tough blow by all means. So, um, you know, thoughts and prayers with Micah Parsons and Patrick Mahomes on their recovery on the ACL injuries. That is just tough to hear, and you're losing all your stars at the end of the year. It's kind of weird, but I think it's got a lot to do with the CBA that these guys negotiated, and I think that injuries happen, but I think the conditioning is off because of what they negotiated and having less practices and all of that stuff. And you're starting to see a lot of lower body injuries happen. So uh, it's just a tough blow for the Packers, tough blow for the Chiefs because they're in a situation where um, not only are they not having any type of shot at making the playoffs this year, but next year is going to be in a limbo too. The Packers are going to have to fight uphill. They play good football, but they're in a situation now where they may have to try to see who is a free agent out here that can maybe come help, give them a little boost. I don't know if James Houston's always available somewhere. Maybe he come in for the run, somebody like that. That's the only person I can think of right now. You guys have anybody in mind? Let me know who you believe that maybe the Packers could bring in. So what is this right here? Yeah, let's block that. Getting a lot of spam in these chats. That's weird. But I guess we got to talk about too. The Dallas Cowboys have been eliminated. I know that's a running joke in itself at this point. We see all the memes. Dallas Cowboys have been eliminated, and the season hasn't even started yet. And they're in a situation too where they just do not meet expectations at all. Um, I don't know. I just think they got some of the worst luck as an organization, aka Jerry Jones, the Black Cat, because they still have a whole lot of talent. That defense hasn't been great. Of course, the secondary is beat up. Trevon Diggs don't want nothing to do with the Dallas Cowboys, and I think it's a vice versa situation with the Dallas Cowboys. And they're just an interesting bunch. You know, you got C.D. Lamb, you got George Pickens. Dak was playing one of his best, having one of his best years as a quarterback for the most part. And yet again, they are still without a playoff berth. And you know, I think at some point Dallas is going to have to look at the situation because now you traded for George Pickens for a third round pick, and George has been great, but that's still you're still not in a playoff. You're still going to be on the outside looking in. So just like I said with the Kansas City Chiefs, even though they have 3 rings, the Dallas Cowboys have not done anything in a while. And at this point now, when do you just say it's time to kind of like blow it up? Because are you going to pay George Pickens? You brought him in, you traded for him, so I know you're going to pay for him. Are you going to get George Pickens close to $40 million after you've given C.D. Lamb $40 million a year? I mean, George Pickens is going to end up with what? Maybe 1,500 yards? Let's see how many yards George Pickens has on this year. Let's see. Let's go find our guy, George Pickens. The crazy thing is, Dak threw for almost 300 yards. Well, he ain't throw no touchdowns, but he ain't throw no picks either. Let's see what George Pickens did here. Let's see where we at with George. Let me put this on the screen real quick. I'm excited now because I know how to pull the stuff up on the screen. And this getting pretty good at this. All right, so stat views, cartoon characters are hilarious. But George Pickens, 81 receptions, 1,200 yards, 8 receiving touchdowns in 14 games. He's averaging, what's that, 15 yards to catch? That's pretty good. I mean, he's had 120 targets and he's got 81 receptions. So he has been pretty good. Now he didn't do much yesterday night. You know, that Vikings defense was gonna put a blanket on him. But, you know, with those type of numbers, he's gonna get paid. And then he has what? What's this? 3 more games? So he probably gonna get 1,500 yards. How much money do you think uh, George Pickens is gonna want? I think they're gonna have a whole bunch of problems trying to put George Pickens on the franchise tag. I can't see them doing that. They may try to do that to work out a deal, but he's gonna want $40 million a year. He's gonna want his money. He's gonna want his money. There's no way he's gonna play for anything less than that. So now you have a Cincinnati Bengals type of situation. That's a Bengals type of situation. Are you going to pay your quarterback who's making $60 million a year in Dak Prescott already? C.D. Lamb is one of the highest paid wide receivers. If I'm not mistaken, he's number 2. If George Pickens end up getting to 1,500 yards, which more than likely he is, he's going to want $40 million a year. I don't know how you justify giving him that type of money when you guys didn't make the playoffs. You've had him the whole time. You've had CD the whole time. You've had Dak the whole time. And you guys can't get over the hump. See, when the Cincinnati Bengals did it, Cincinnati Bengals have went to a Super Bowl. You know, they've been dancing. The Dallas Cowboys have not been dancing in a while. So you can justify the Bengals, whether you really agree with it or not, but they've showed their worth and their purpose. Dallas Cowboys have not done that. So you're going to go into the offseason and you're going to say, I'm going to pay George Pickens $40 million after I just paid CeeDee Lamb $40 million and we're paying Dak $60 million. Then you pay Quinton Williams just got paid. Then you got Kenny Clark that's on a nice contract. Where's all this money coming from? And you're not winning. I think they're in a predicament. I think this is a predicament. I definitely think this is a predicament. And I'll be honest, I would have to sit down and become a capologist and crunch the numbers and see how the Dallas Cowboys get better and try to keep everybody around them. Because now it's starting to look like the George Pickens trade was for nothing. It's almost looking like you gave up a third-round pick just to pay him. And picking up George Pickens, even though he played well, CeeDee Lamb played well, Dak Prescott played well, those guys still couldn't get you into the dance. They still couldn't get you into the playoffs. They're still going to end up 8-1 more likely, something like that. So it's going to be like, what did you do it for? Some things are definitely going to have to change in Dallas coming up this offseason. They're going to have an interest in offseason. And I'm going to be honest, I think at this point now, if I'm Dak Prescott, he's such a company man. He's going to go to the letter of the law. He's not going to get in any type of trouble. I actually am a fan of Dak. But I'm going to say this. If I'm Dak Prescott at this point, I'm starting to look to get up out of Dallas. And this is what I'm saying. This is what comes with it. When you're the quarterback and you're getting paid all that money, when you getting paid all that dough, and you know you already taking up 20% of the cap, and then you got all these guys around you, and they're getting paid too, and you still can't make it. I don't know what else you do. And if I'm Jerry Jones, at some point now, you can't keep paying the fiddler and you're not getting anywhere. And that's how I look at the Cowboys situation. They paid a lot of money out, and they have not gotten anywhere. So they're in a tough boat. They're definitely in a tough boat. But we gotta touch on one more subject. Phillip Rivers, old man Rivers. Hey, I didn't think Phillip Rivers was gonna make it through the first quarter. I'm gonna be honest. I just thought this guy is getting up off his bed, his couch, and to go to play quarterback. And you know, he played the Seahawks defense, which is a stellar D. I think for the most part, getting off the bed, seeing the energy that he played well. I was worried for Phillip, old man Rivers. I was worried for him, but he played pretty good. And you know, hats off to Phillip Rivers, man. He's a great guy from all intents and purposes that I've heard about him. And to get off the couch and come in and know all the cadence, and he looked like he was in sync, like he was still in his prime. Like the physical attributes, hey, he ain't gonna be what he was. But like I said, for a 44, 45-year-old man getting off the couch, salute to him. And that lets anybody know out here, if it's something you want to do out here in this world, you're never too old. You may not be what you once was, but you can always give it a shot, though. And I salute Phillip Rivers for that. I think his numbers were pretty good. Let's go check Phillip Rivers' numbers here. Make sure I keep stat views up on my computer. It's a good tracking tool if you guys are looking in the stats and want to catch up on everything. Uh, really in all sports, to be totally honest. But yeah, he didn't do nothing crazy, but it's respectable for somebody who hadn't played football in 20 it seemed like 20 years, not like 5 years to be a bit silly. I mean, he threw for almost 70%. He only threw for 120, but he had the one pick, but he looked like he had commanded offense. The guys were vibing with him. So I think he looks better, a little bit better in the next game. But again, salute to Phillip, to be honest. And they already named him the starter for this game coming up. So listen, I'll be on Phillip Rivers' watch because I want to see if he can get a 300-yard game going here at some point before the season over. I'm really rooting for them to get in the playoffs. I really want them to get in now. I really want to see them get in because I just want to see if he can do this at the age of 45 years old. So, yeah, I mean, numbers went bad. One touchdown, one pick. And also, too, that offensive line held up, too. He was only sacked once. I don't think he was pressured a lot either. So, he held up pretty decent. And, yeah, I just wanted to, come on here, give you guys a quick live. Again, as always, I appreciate you guys. I know it's football time. We all sit down, if you ate your dinner or about to eat dinner, want to kick back and relax. A lot of people just getting back to work, the start of the work week, maybe doing a little bit of holiday shopping here and there. So I know this is like a stressful time for everybody. So I just want to, bring myself to the live, at least give you guys an hour or close to an hour. You guys can, go watch some Monday Night Football and kick back and relax. And, of course, I'll be around. I'm thinking about doing a show for Wednesday. Won't do one tomorrow, but we'll do one Wednesday. It's some more things that I'm working on my end to make this a good show and working on some other stuff that I want you guys to see at some point here real soon. So, um, yeah, if you guys have any comments or any questions, feel free to leave them in the live chat or leave them in the comment box after the live goes off, and I will answer them on the next live. Any ideas or any questions about football or whatever the case may be, don't hesitate to reach out. Uh, I'll get to you at some point. I always will make myself available at some point to get back to you. So I'm gonna end this here. I appreciate you guys as always. Thank you so much. We are growing this thing. Like I said, this is a brick by brick thing. Like, subscribe, share the page, and we'll do this again Wednesday. Um, so I may try to put out a video tomorrow, put out a video or something tomorrow, give you some content. But Wednesday we'll be live again. You never know. Maybe we'll have a guest or something like that may come on and we can talk a little bit of football with somebody. So we'll see how that goes. But again, I appreciate you guys as always. Uh, like, share, subscribe the page. It helps a lot. Trying to revive this thing we got going on over here. And to the next time, peace.